I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the crisis that exists today in this state, in Illinois, in the arts community. All of the good things that's happening at the national level, there's some very bad things happening here. And I'm familiar, I almost want to tell you to turn the tape off. I'm familiar with the politics of Karl Rove and Tom DeLay. I'm familiar with the political gamesmanship that exists. But nothing really prepared me for the level of acrimony that exists in this state between our state leaders. They all happen to be in the same party. Two of our key goals this past year was to advocate, number one, for Illinois Arts Council funding. The Illinois Arts Council is the state's granting agency for the arts. Their budget 2 years ago was approximately $20 million. Our goal was to increase their funding to $24 million, or $2 per person per year. Basically, for the cost of a cup of coffee, the Arts Council can help ensure that people from all areas of our state and from all walks of life have access to the arts and can experience and participate in the arts. So our one key goal for the Arts Council was to increase their funding to $24 million. Our other key goal was to increase funding for the Arts and Foreign Language Grant Program. For those of you who are not familiar with this issue, in 2004, the Illinois Arts Alliance conducted the first statewide assessment of the arts in our schools. And while over 90% of the U.S. public believes that the arts are part of a quality education, our research revealed that 20% of principals in Illinois reported having zero arts instruction, nothing. Our research uncovered that it's a very uneven playing field in terms of access to the arts in our state. We know that there are large groups of young people that can go from kindergarten through high school without ever taking a visual arts class, without ever taking a music class, without ever taking a drama class, without ever taking a dance class. If you're in this room, chances are somewhere through your childhood you had an opportunity to experience the arts. There are lots of young people right now going to school in this state who don't have access to the arts. To his credit, this governor, based off of our research, which was called Arts at the Core, and subsequent advocacy efforts, which several folks in this room were a part of, the state created a new granting program through the State Board of Education to offer schools and school districts with resources to help bolster their arts programming. The first year that this program was created, it was funded at $2 million. The second year that the program was funded at $4 million. Last year, our goal was to increase that funding to $7 million. So our two key goals last year this time was to increase funding for the Illinois Arts Council to $24 million and to increase funding for arts education to $7 million. For those of you who follow Illinois government and politics, you know that last year was a very, very difficult legislative year. We had the longest overtime session in our state's history. It was epic gridlock. Nothing got done. Basically, you have legislative leaders who, if their goal was to stop the next person from getting what they want, they were very effective at that. But the history, and then I'll shut up and pass it along, the history of that funding. So on August 10th, 2007, the Illinois House and Senate did finally pass a budget. It was great for the arts, over a $3 million increase for the Arts Council. It was great for arts education. That budget then went to the desk of Governor Rod Blagojevich. The governor gutted arts funding, historic reduction in arts funding. He also eliminated funding for his own program, for the Arts and Foreign Language Grant Program. So here we were close enough to our goals that we could smell them and touch them. Dollars that support artists, support theaters, museums. And next thing you know, there was a cut, a very deep cut. And mind you, these weren't across the board cuts. The governor, in essence, cut over $460 million out of the state budget. And he didn't do it by saying, you know what, times are tough. I really want health care. We're going to have a 2%, 3% cut across the board, all agencies. No, that's not what he did. He picked and chose agencies that were going to be cut. And if you read between the lines, the chairwoman of the Illinois Arts Council today happens to be a woman by the name of Shirley Madigan, and she's a great leader and champion for the Arts Council. Shirley Madigan just so happens to be the wife of the Speaker of the House, Michael Madigan. Michael Madigan just so happens to be oftentimes at odds with the governor. So when the governor issued his veto budget, there were many who felt, including many reporters, that the cuts were politically motivated. They weren't about the merits of the arts, and mind you, the arts were just one of several industries, issue areas affected. But the cuts not only cut to the bone of the arts community, they're starting to cut off the limbs of the arts community. Right now, today, for this fiscal year, 45 states increased their investment in their state arts agencies. 45 states said, you know what, the arts are good for children and families, they're good for our educational growth, they're good for our economic vitality, let's increase our investment in the arts. 3 states cut arts funding. Illinois happened to be one of those states, slashed $4.5 million in arts funding. Where we're at today, on February 20th, last Wednesday, the governor unveiled his veto budget. It was essentially flat funding for the Illinois Arts Council. There are indications that he will restore some arts education funding, but we really have an uphill battle for Arts Council funding. There was a 30% cut in their grants to organizations, and there's a lot of work to be done there. We understand that there will be hearings held throughout the state. There'll be budget hearings held in your neighborhood. It's really important that you make your voice heard. What happens now in terms of the budget is the budget goes to both the House and the Senate. It then goes to a conference, and then it'll go back to the governor's desk. It's important that you reach out to your state senator, to your state representative, and let them know that the arts are important in your communities. Just to give you an idea of the cuts, and I brought quotes with me. The Illinois Arts Alliance conducted a survey. We didn't want people to just take our word for it about the impact of these cuts, and they're devastating. We've heard from individual artists who've contacted the Arts Council, and because of the decrease in funding, they want documentation so they can apply for free and reduced lunch program for their children. We've heard about organizations such as the Sun Foundation in Peoria, which is teetering on the brink of having to close their doors.
I can actually speak to that because I was affected very directly by this. For about 4 or 5 years, I worked with the Fox Valley Arts Council. Very big group of people, Elgin area. I designed their publication, which came out quarterly. And it was one of the things that, when you talk about your core being coming together with what you're doing for a living, I felt so good about this project and about this group and what they were doing in the Fox Valley region. And they got their Illinois Arts funding canceled. And so the public canceled. Oh, wow. They went under. They went completely under. And I got a small amount of money relatively small amount of money for designing the publication. But there were only 2 people that got paid on this publication. One was the printer and one was me, the graphic designer. They went under. They could not pay. They went under owing me $2,000. I certainly would not even consider bringing them to court because I understand the politics that contributed to such a terrible thing happening. And then the problem with that is that we put ourselves as a state or as a nation in the position of relying on the corporate world to fund the arts. And we all know as artists, or perhaps we've gotten wind from other artists, that one of the most difficult things about earning a living creatively is having to smush yourself into this cookie cutter mold of what people who publication really went down the tubes. We tried to fund it by going out getting more advertisers. The advertisers didn't want to advertise because they're not getting the results they wanted. And so this fine organization that had been just very successful for very many years, well before I became involved in the graphic design aspect, just folded. And it was nurturing and supportive to many different kinds of artists, writers, poets, visual artists,